Welcome to this episode of Teach Me on Through Jeremiah's Eyes. Today, I am joined by researcher Jonathan Chapman, and we're going to dive into a bit of his research today. So, Jonathan, if you could please introduce yourself.
Sure. My name is Jonathan Chapman. I'm an early career scientist that has done a couple of research projects in the past, seeking to hopefully be enrolled in a graduate program by this coming fall, studying preferably behavioral ecology of marine or estuarine fishes. And right now, I'm just looking at specific opportunities that would be related to that, and just grad school programs as well.
Beautiful. And also good luck with that. This past summer, I was at Friday Harbor Laboratories studying the individual and interspecies variation in scope and ventilation, which was my project that I conducted. But at SICB 2020, the research conference that I was at back in January, we met and I learned that you, just a year before, were also at Friday Harbor Laboratories, were conducting your own research project. And in terms of your research project, your topic of study, from what I understand, is on the Pacific sand lance. So if I may ask, could you teach me a bit about your project on vertical diel migration of this Pacific sand lance and what exactly those two things are in relation to the vertical diel migration and also the Pacific sand lance?
Sure. So the Pacific sand lance is a forage fish that is prominent in the northern Pacific. They don't have a swim bladder, so they are very important to the ecological processes throughout the food web. So everything we eat those, from marine birds, fish, even seals. So they're very important. They, as their name says, sand lance. So they basically burrow in the sediment and can feed off the algae and plankton in the water column throughout the day. So they have a twice daily migration pattern called diel vertical migration, or DVM, where they will come out in the water column around dawn and then dusk to go and feed. So basically, during my research project, me and my cohort in the fish pod, we would go on research cruises and use basically a big metal grabber. We drop that onto the ground at the sand wave field of the fish different spots along the Salish Sea where Friday Harbor Labs is located in. And what we would do is we'd bring the fish back to the lab. Everyone had an individual project. For my project, what we would do is I would take some of those fish that we acquired from the Van Peen Grab and from doing beach stains along the coast as well. And some would be in complete darkness for 24 hours. Some would be in a room that would be getting natural sunlight throughout each day. So for the control, the ones in the lab, I would go about every 5 days into the lab and monitor their movement within the water column, within the tanks that are in the dark room, and then within the tanks that are in the room that would be getting natural sunlight. Okay. And I would do those at dawn for about 4 hours, and again at dusk. And what would be the case is generally, no matter what time it is, they would come out in the water column right around prime dawn hours, I'd say right about sunrise or so, and then right before, I'd say, sundown or twilight. So the later it got brighter, you could see more fish in the column, and then as it got darker towards sunset, there'd be less and less. It was a very small window. And then what I would do with my mentor, Dr. Matt Baker, we would go out on separate cruises in a smaller aluminum boat. We would drop these twin array stereo cameras at certain spots right along the coast at San Juan Island and then a couple other islands there. We retrieved those about 24 hours later, go retrieve the images, and then I would mark whenever I saw sand lance, along with other fish. There were sculpins and some herring in there and such, and would go and note when those fish in those images were located in the water column. The camera took an image, I believe, every 15 or 30 seconds. I had a lot of images to go through. Yeah. Basically, there was a correlation between a control condition in the dark room where there would be no fish ever coming out because there was never any light for them to come out, so they would just be staring at sediment all the time. Yeah. Compared to their natural habitat where they were coming out around the hours of sunrise and around sunset. So we're able to go and put that together and do a presentation on that. And the cool thing is my work, every student's work is a little bit different, but they're able to build upon each year. So something that I did in the fall of 22, student this coming fall, in the fall of 22, in the fall of 2020, student this coming fall can look at my research and compare that to whatever project they may be doing using that.
Yeah.
Build upon that, and maybe they'll have different results, and it just gives them a larger breadth of material to study for the ecosystem there, along with all the other students' projects, worked with reproduction, sedimentation, otolith aging. There was a bunch of different things going on with just one fish. So that was the extent of the research, and it was really great to just get out there and do so much. And the fact that this was fall of 2020, we were able to accomplish so much in a COVID world, and doing that safely well was great. So it was a really great experience. It's definitely emboldened a lot, and definitely a route I want to go is do academic research. So
that sounds really cool. Yeah. And that's so much information, but that sounds like it was a really cool experience. I know being out there in Friday Harbor it had to have been
it's
like a
Friday
super
Harbor
experience.
again. You've been there, so it's like science camp. I mean,
yeah.
It's literally just this biological reserve. It's absolutely pristine. There's not a piece of trash on the ground.
Yep.
Walk through if you went through the fire trail there and go on a hike, whether by yourself or it's literally like some kind of movie in these old growth forests. It's absolutely
yeah. I was about to say, it's like Zen. You just walk through there and like there's nobody. It's just pure nature, and that's something that I was never able to experience. But when you're there, as you're saying, it's literally like a movie. You see the sunsets just sitting on the harbor. It's like, how did I get here?
Were you able to see orcas while you were there?
Oh yeah, we saw a few orcas, which was really cool as well. And they also took us whale watching at some point, so that was also really cool as well. It was like during the heat wave that hit last summer, we were able to go whale watching, so it wasn't like super cold out on the water. Yeah. But we got lucky. We saw a lot of different whales, so that was a really cool experience.
We didn't see orcas. There was apparently some nearby, but I was not nearby where to see them. And then on the last week, me and just two other of the students, we went out on the aluminum whale boat to just do a last kind of grabs. We did a smaller banding grab and used that there. And we saw, it was obviously split from a larger pod. I think it was 3 of them. They just came right by. And it was
That's
just
crazy.
Oh my God. It was crazy. So
we love nature.
It was great, because I would have been bummed. I was there the whole time and didn't see any orcas. That was it was good.
Yeah, we love Friday Harbor. Mm-hmm. But a few questions. What obstacles did you come across when you were trying to track the fish or look at the different pictures that you did to be able to gather the data? Were there any like problems that you came across?
Well, there could be problems through, as is with science, you're going to have failures, and you're going to have to think quick on your feet no matter what you're studying. So when we were doing the larger grabs, I would say the problem was that sometimes we just weren't in the right spot, or we weren't in a good spot. So even though the GPS navigation said we were under the sandline field, we would go and pull up just like some sediment, or it'd be a rocky sediment and there'd be no fish in there. And since they bury in kind of not like silt clay like sediment, but not rocky pebbly sediments, kind of right in between, depending on what you're pulling up, you're not going to get as many fish. So it'd probably be more than getting as many fish, and or our beach seining attempts. So that quarter started in late September. We couldn't really start doing any work till the first week of October because of the COVID quarantine that we had for the first few days. Yeah. And as we got to late October, we weren't pulling up any fish during the beach seining, which apparently was typical for the time of year for that season. So it didn't affect my project too much because I had enough fish, but the other students that needed fish for the project, and we were doing some of the beach seins like towards late November, and we were not pulling any up. And then with the images, really there wasn't any issues with that. It would kind of be more deciphering them, or seeing exactly what there is. I wasn't exactly, I believe, I might have actually been counting how many were there, but I think it would just be a matter of just kind of getting more of an average. So the cameras were taking a picture, I believe it was either 15 or 30 seconds. So you kind of would have to take an average, see all these fish within a 2-minute interval that they're time stamped, but then sometimes there's 4 and then sometimes there's 24. So you just kind of got to make it is a little bit of a guesstimate, but which isn't the most scientific way to proceed. But at the same time, you have solid data that they are in the water column at that specific time. And that was part of one of the graphs that I put together. It was a 24-hour clock, and it was showing spikes during the sunrise hours and then before it was as well. So
that's really cool.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad. I've experienced worse. So.
And then another question with vertical, I want to get it right. I think you said dial, or is it deal?
I've heard, before that SICP conference, I heard a researcher say dial for the first time. So I guess it's either or. I've heard deal vertical migration, DVM, which I never heard of before I got there for that, with all the papers that I read in biofish class when undergrad.
Yeah. And could you explain that one more time?
Yeah, so there's a period that they basically go out to feed during specific air. I personally haven't read much of the literature on it in a little while because I did this work over a year ago. So I am a little green on the actual literature because I haven't read it in a bit. But basically these fish, they feed on algae and plankton within the water column during those specific times right around sunrise, and then again before basically would be twilight, which would be before sunset. So they'll basically be out in the water column then, and they're burrowers. So these guys just stay, these fish just stay in the sand, deep in the sand. I think it's been estimated they can go, I don't even know the specifics, but it might be as far, I don't know if it's going to be maybe like a meter, but they can get pretty deep down there. They're not like just right below the surface, because they'll just wait to go and feed when they go out into the water column. Yeah. So they will come up around then to go and feed, and that's basically their feeding behavior. I believe there are different types of burrowing fish that do that type of ecological feeding behavior as well. So that's basically what it is. So deal as in twice a day that they're doing that. So. And when they were in the dark room in the control setting, once again, I never saw them. Basically, the lights were off in the room. The tanks were wrapped with black plastics, basically trash bags that were cut up, wrapped around every side of the tank except for the top. Actually, I think it was most of the top too. There's certainly enough air to come through, so the water was oxygenated, and there was a free-flowing system. So the water was actually coming from Friday Harbor itself and pumped in through there. So, which I'm not sure which labs you were in. I was only in the one lab there, but it was coming in through there. So the fish basically in the darkroom never even saw them. So until the end of this experiment, where we actually were responsible for obviously cleaning up our each project. So we drain that tank and then scoop them up. They would still find them. We would still find them there. My cohort, who actually became pretty good friends with, he was helping me out that last night there. We were having, it was actually pretty fun because we would be finishing up, cleaning out sediment, put it in the bucket, and they go, oh, nope, we got another one.
There's another one.
They were a little wiggle away into just like a tiny handful of sand and just safe in that. So it's an experience getting them. It's also an experience when they fall onto the deck of the boat too. Scooping them back up because they are slippery and they don't want to be handled. So that's kind of found like taking the Right in the Rain notebook was a good scooper to pick them back up and put them in the bucket. That's science.
Sounds like an amazing experience too. But thank you so much, Jonathan. And I hope that everything with your grad school journey, all the future research goes well. Wish you all the success with that as well. And I hope that all of you guys learned something new today on this episode of Teach Me. So thank you, and I'll see you guys soon.